and welcome to episode 4 of the 202 show. I'm Ryan Saber. This week we have something a little bit different. If you've seen the show before, you've probably heard me drop the name LC Late Night a couple of times already. And that was, of course, the radio show that I hosted with Matt my junior and senior year of college. So tonight, for a very special episode of 202, we brought the original LC Late Night 5, plus Sean, onto the show for what I think is going to be pretty cool. So without further ado, let's welcome in for the first time, Jessica Goggins.
Hello.
Taylor Langmead.
Hello.
And of course, our returning characters, Mr. Matt Berenson.
What's up?
Andrew Greenblatt.
Hello.
And because I refuse to do a show without him, Mr. Sean Corcoran.
Oh.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. I got what I think is going to be a pretty cool night planned. All right, so once again, if you're just joining us for the first time, we are the 202 Show, the podcast talk show where we talk about sports, movies, comic books, music, and realistically anything we have an opinion on, but we try to stay away from politics. We post new videos every week, so make sure to subscribe to the channel below and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the 202 Show. First game we're going to play is called One Old, One New. We played it last week, so the 4 guys in the group are familiar with it. Basically, it's very simple. The premise of the game is I give you a category, and you have to tell me something that fits in that category that was before 2015 and one after 2015. Now, Greenblatt said is before 2015 really old, and realistically no. So if you can try to go a little bit older than that, go for it.
I've got an old one.
But I just kind of meant 2015 more as thinking from a new premise, as 2015 to now is more new than 2010 to now or whatever year before that. So the category today is albums to binge while in quarantine, but realistically albums to binge whenever. Of course, before 2015 and after 2015. So, Matt, since you played the game last week, I'm going to let you go first. So, albums to binge while in quarantine.
All right. So, as far as before 2015 goes, this album came out in 2014 and is one of my favorite albums of all time. And this will only be a good album to anyone who listens to, like, super heavy music. Not super heavy, decently heavy music. But that is Devil by Chiodos. That's an easy go-to for me. One of my favorite bands of all time. So for sure, check that out. It's a concept album, really cool. One of those albums that kind of definitely gets swept under the rug often. So I would say that for old. As far as new, I want to keep it pretty new, as in like has come out within the last couple months, just because from 2015 to now, I mean, so much has been released. But if we're saying one new album in the last, let's say, 2 months, I would totally recommend to get your hands on, gotta find it, one sec. You'll Be Fine, Hot Mulligans.
I swear to God, Matt.
I was thinking of that one too, believe it or not.
You son of a bitch.
And of course it was.
Sorry, I can
I'm not
change
the
it.
same
Oh,
person.
you're good. It's all you. Go.
All
I
right,
just love stealing people's answers for these things.
what can I say? I'm just all over it. But that's only talking about stuff that has come out as of recent. I mean, a lot has come out recent. There's some albums I'm looking forward to that are coming out too that I would probably recommend before they even come out. So, but I won't get into that.
No, that You'll Be Fine by Hot Mulligan was obviously going to be my answer. But yeah, great album. I love it. It has a very, it's not traditional pop punk in the same sense that we've been hearing kind of the same stuff over and over and over and over again. And even Neck Deep released this song recently, and I'm like, okay, cool, but it sounds like Neck Deep, and the same Neck Deep we've heard over and over again. But regardless, Taylor, balls to you.
As no surprise to all of you, I'm going to bring up Taylor Momsen. So my first one is the Light Me Up album, because that was released in 2010, I think. I wrote it down. Where did I write it down? Whatever. Anyways, so the background of this is that most of the entire album was written at a bar when she was 16, just coming out of her childhood acting career. So this is right after Gossip Girl and stuff, because she was pretty young at that time. some of this was already written like drunk at a bar, and you can hear all the teenage drama, and that's probably the only downfall of it, is that it's like "You Make Me Want to Die" is really overly dramatic, and then there's lines like it's over sexualized, like that whole song with the priest that's like, "Can I take off my dress because I'm only 16, if you know what I mean." There's just a lot of like, and all the lines about the drug exploration and just crazy adventures that shouldn't happen normal everyday life, because she was quite wild as a teenager. So the whole feel of the music of the album is, it's not grunge, but it's like it's a nod to grunge, because it's definitely it's too like produced, but she was going for grunge and you can kind of tell, but the instruments themselves seem too separated and it sounds far too practiced. And while she gets that like smoky vocals in there, it's not like as raw, and for her, I don't think that's her natural raw. I think her natural, like, what I was looking for when I heard that album the first time was like, she should be singing something like bluesy rock, not screaming and raspy and whatever. While I love that, and I identify more with that kind of music anyways. Then in 2016, I got what I asked for, and this is my new album to listen to, is Who You Sellin' For, where she spent her whole time alone, completely alone, isolated in her room. She went down a rabbit hole or two of her own brain and came out with Who You Sellin' For. And this she released when she was 23 years old. And it's the album cover is yellow, and it has a photo of, it's a drawing she did, and it was just quick, but it's like a really skinny woman, and with that it's yellow. And I think there's some, like, the rabbit hole she went down was more her own anxieties, because a lot of the theme is like the walls are closing in and I'm a prisoner and nobody listens to me, stuff like that. Anyways, but in every interview, she's never ever mentioned any meaning to her songs. She leaves it up for everyone else's interpretation. She refused to, like, so she made everything so general that everyone could relate. Yeah. But it's just that what I like about both albums together, you kind of have to look at them together, because one was who she wanted to be, or who she was when she was 16, to who she is now. And the first one was written while she was wasted at a bar, underage, doing gosh knows what, to now where she's 23, kind of an adult, and it's more refined, it's more adult themed, and thus it's more complicated. And this is definitely more her sound compared to Light Me Up. So I think it's a whole, this is who she is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, that's a good one. Sean.
So for old that I've been listening to recently, I'm going to go back, the year I was born, 1995, and I'm picking What's the Story, Morning Glory by Oasis.
Good one.
I just been listening to that album a lot lately just because, I've been listening to a lot of stuff, but for some reason I keep going back to that album. I just love it. It's just a great album. One of my favorite bands of all time. It's kind of like one of those groups that you wish you played more in college, but I really didn't until, after.
Yeah.
And then newer album, I know I kind of got you guys all into this group called Seaway.
I love it.
I've been listening to them more lately, and I just been falling more in love with their music. And this is from an album that was released a couple years ago called Fresh Produce, which I believe is a compilation album of like various stuff they've done over the last several years.
It was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like it came out like last year, but I think it was
2019.
Yeah, but I think it was stuff that like they recorded previously and just released now.
Yeah, because it's got stuff from older projects on it.
Yeah.
April 19. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been listening to it lately, and it's just awesome music. And I'm just glad I found that song. Just goes back to I'm glad I found that one song a few years ago. And
greatest chart song we ever had was "Something Wonderful" by Seaway.
Yeah.
That was a gold find.
What about Boxes, though?
I knew someone was going to bring that up. I had that on the tip of my tongue. You beat me by this much.
We need to leave Boxes back in the past.
Yeah, Pack up that box and put it away.
Yes, and never
hold on,
take it out.
That guy was cool though, because I think I interviewed him, and I was in the room when someone was interviewing him, and his roommate was Sean and James Gunn. So
That's
at one
right.
point,
That
And
was
I remember-
right. Yeah.
that was cool, and I was just like, my jaw hit the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the only good thing to come from that.
Well, he sent us like boxes upon boxes, no pun intended, of CDs, and we gave those to everybody who could find them, and yeah, that was fun. All right, yes. Oh, sorry, Taylor. What's up?
No, nothing. I still have one of the CDs, and I think I played it once and never again.
I believe it. It was by Circus of the West, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've heard them so often. I put it in, and I was like, "This has all been drilled into my brain. I can't handle it again."
I'm gonna put the link to that in the description.
Please do.
Hey, give the man some
Yeah, right.
viewership. I don't know.
All right, Jess. One old album, one new album.
All right, so my old album was probably like the theme of. It was from 2008, so I was in middle school. Love this. It was by the All American Rejects, When the World Comes Down.
Yeah.
Amazing. And it was like angsty but not angsty, which kind of like described me back then. Because like it was weird, but I loved it. Listen to it, gives you hell. Like that was the best like song on the album, I think. Also the one that was on the radio the most. But loved it. And my current album, I would love to say one, but I won't. So the one that I'm choosing is Halsey's Manic.
Okay.
Yes.
Great album.
I just think that album it has a little bit for everybody. I think a lot of people can relate to it, and it's just like almost everything there is a bop. Like it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that album's so good.
I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go quick because everybody else took hours to do. Old album, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
Great album.
New
Yeah.
album, fucking. Oh shit, I can't swear right.
Fucking oh shit, I can't swear.
We'll just put like quack noises in front of it.
Yes, I love it when people do that.
Blooper reel.
They put back in
I mean,
front
this
of
is a
every.
podcast, so who gives a shit?
I mean, depends on the audience.
New album is Happiness Begins by the Jonas Brothers.
What? No.
I did not see that coming, but I can't disagree.
I
with
don't
you.
listen to a lot of music, but this album came out last year, and it was literally all I listened to over the summer.
I think I was there. Yeah.
It was all I listened to. I mean, I the only things I listen to are podcasts. I very rarely listen to music.
Okay.
I primarily listen to podcasts 90% of the time when I'm actually 99% of the time when I'm in the car.
And that's why you're sad.
I mean, that's
Yeah, you
one.
listen to podcasts
I mean, there
more
are a
than
lot of
anything
reasons for that, but
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I would
I-
survive my day without music, honestly.
I
Same.
I got really, really deep for a second.
I don't listen to a lot of music.
When I work for 9 hours right here, music really helps.
I,
All right. My old album, I'm going 5150 by Van Halen, came out 34 years ago, unless my math is wrong, which it probably is.
It's definitely an 80s album.
Yeah, 1986. It's the first Van Hagar album after
Yep.
why am I blanking here? David Lee Roth left the band. Sammy Hagar came in as the lead singer. It has Why Can't This Be Love? It has Love Walks In, of course, has 5150 on it. And of course, probably one of my 5 favorite songs of all time, Dreams by Van Halen.
Yep.
Which, as Matt knows off the top of his head, is the closing title song of the 1995 Power Rangers movie. Yeah, what's up? I see your hand raised. What's good?
Yeah. So as Van Halen being one of my favorite bands of all time, I do have to ask you, are you more Van Hagar than
Yes,
Van
absolutely.
Halen with David Lee Roth?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a Van Hagar.
Wow, okay.
All right.
Okay.
It's respectful. Yeah.
Why Can't This Be Love and 5150 are both great. Why Can't This Be Love is one of my favorite songs they've ever put out, but I think I'm still Team
Well,
David.
The thing, it's almost entirely, it feels like an entirely different band. Once
A lot of times, yeah.
Yeah, it feels more polished, more clean, more. I don't want to say mainstream. Whereas with David Lee Roth, it feels a little bit more wild.
Yeah.
And it has more of a more rock and roll energy to it.
So I'm gonna rock and roll nerd real quick.
Go for it, please do.
I just lost power again. That's why
I know
I'm
you
dark.
did.
Oh.
I'm gonna look up. Hold on 1 second.
You're good.
I'm gonna rock and roll nerd real quick because that's what I do best.
You look like Bohemian Rhapsody. That's
Yes.
one by one the lights coming up.
There you go.
So use your flashlight on your phone and make it like a scary ghost telling thing you put underneath your feet.
So my power's back, so it's gonna stay that way. So the big reason why David Lee Roth, publicly anyway, left Van Halen was because he was afraid that they were becoming way too much of a pop band, and basically when they picked up Hagar, they went like full-blown pop, and that totally escalated their careers, which is a cool like middle finger. But at the same time, I think they were still at their peak when it came to rock and roll with David.
No. Oh, you're definitely right. It's a different sound. Cindy Hagar is definitely more of a pop rock versus David Lee Roth is more of a wild rock, not an angry rock.
Oh, there it is.
What we've listened to recently is angry rock, but yeah, definitely more of a wild rock. And then modern album, because this segment's been going on forever. My modern album is from 2017, and without anybody being surprised here, that is Adornment by Grayscale. It's flat out amazing. It's been, without any question, my favorite band probably since I first heard the album. I'm totally losing track of the songs on it. It's entirely well put together. Mom, Fever Dream, Atlantic, Come Undone, Forever Yours. It's just, I love the album. All right, we're going to take a quick. So let's talk about Tiger King. Because right now, I don't think there's anything the internet wants to talk about more, except for something I don't want to talk about on this show. So let's talk about Tiger King. First of all, I want to discuss who you think is in the wrong here, if you think everybody's in the wrong, and, well, do you think Carol Baskin killed her husband? Sean?
Hey, all the cats and kittens.
Sean?
They're all awful people is what it comes down to in my view. I'm sorry. They're just not – they're all weird, that's for sure. And Joe Exotic definitely did the stuff he did, and I'm pretty sure Carol Baskin killed her husband. That's just the way I view it right now.
Anybody else?
Carol Baskin killed her husband, and she obviously fed it to the tiger, so I don't understand why the FBI or the cops or whatever didn't, like, pick up the tiger feces and have it tested for human remains, because, like, obviously way too late now. Second of all, you see, I think as much as it, like, at the end, it overly portrayed Joe to be super innocent, whereas Joe has said himself, I'm not super innocent, like, I've done shit.
Yeah.
I've done stuff that I shouldn't have. Jeff has also said that it doesn't really matter. I think it's all a cultural upbringing that has kind of Joe, we all know, had a rough childhood. I think definitely there were some other physical things that happened to him that made him the way he is. But the thing that really sticks out to me is how he brainwashed that 18-year-old and got him hooked on crack and pot. What was it?
Meth
and pot. And then the suicide I saw coming, but I didn't see it coming in front of somebody.
But they called it an accident too, which is just wrong.
Because here's the thing. There was footage of him seeming obviously depressed and obviously suicidal. So, like, whether that was an accident, it still could have been, like, because he plays with guns a lot. Obviously, his playing with guns psychologically is just, like, a way he the connection to the gun is that connection to I am suicidal.
Yeah.
But whether he was going to commit it or not, I'm not sure there's enough evidence to say like he meant to do that. Because he played with them a lot as like, I want to die, but also he knows like they're, so I think the only reason that person got depressed and suicidal was directly because Joe Exotic like brainwashed him. You know what I mean? And then lastly, the last thing I had about that, never mind, you'll have to come back because I forget.
That's fine.
I have one thing to say, and that everyone on that show is just a very unique version of Florida Man.
Yes.
Like, if all of them came together and formed one, it would be the complete version of crazy Florida Man,
The ultimate Florida Man.
Yeah.
Florida
Like, if we were,
Yeah,
send them
Megazord.
into war, they'll win because they're just so crazy. Them with their tigers and lions and all of the exotic cats. And then, Carol Baskin with her murderous rage.
And Gardner Minshew.
Yes.
So, for
Up in Florida, he spent his young 20s in Florida, and he's like, everyone was like that. If they didn't have a tiger or something, a lot of people had that personality, or they had snakes and whatever. And he was like, everyone he said he was involved with was like mostly sketchy, but also like there were people that weren't bad intentioned. But again, it goes like everyone's the hero in their story, and you know.
Matt, what are your thoughts?
actually really anti-Tiger King, to be completely honest. I don't find any character or person in the show likable. I just
Oh, you're not supposed to.
No, you hate them all.
I guess it's just, I don't know. I'm like a big believer in like, we give spotlight to the wrong things way too often. And this is another one of those things. I hate it. I hate it.
It is a little bit like, I don't want to say mind numbing, but like I've lost a few brain cells.
Oh, yeah,
for sure.
That's
like,
God, yeah.
It's like I did meth and I've never done that in my life.
Not like I did.
It's designed to make you go, okay, at least I'm not that guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Thank
I
God.
guess, yeah.
Just don't buy
It's
a
like
tiger.
when you're at your lowest, go watch Tiger King because you're like, oh, at least I'm not him.
I'm not doing that bad.
Also, I'm pretty sure I have more teeth in my mouth than everyone in that show.
Probably.
100%.
Combined.
The guy got his teeth fixed.
Wait, no, not even that. But if you watch the beginning of the series, I forget his first lover's name, but his first husband that he had, who at the end only had like 2 teeth you could see, in the beginning of them filming, because remember they filmed for 5 years, he had more teeth. And as you watch through the series, he progressively loses more teeth.
Yeah, that's
drugs.
what that does.
Also, can I bring up another fact that we bring the spotlight to the wrong people?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Because the purpose of this documentary was strictly to talk about the population of tigers in the wild and in habitation. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was extreme. Like the difference in the wild to what's in population and captivity is in, I want to say 20,000s, but I feel like that's also way off. Like I don't remember the numbers, but either way, it's to show it. They really want to bring out that craziness and all the people, because these are the people. This ring of people, because it wasn't just Joe Exotic. We all know that.
No.
They all had sketchy dealings and everything. So it's pointing out that like these people, like with Carol Baskin, okay, they're basically alive weapons. And it's not worth having them in captivity if they're all extinct in the wild. I'm sorry, but if the population's that bad, is it worth trying to save them? And if we're going to only be saving them to breed and breed and breed for our own benefit, then there's no point, because they're so dangerous.
Yeah.
So
it's a big problem.
It is a good spotlight because nobody's thinking about this, and spotlight's good when it has a message and a meaning that needs to be like, it needs to bring information to the public, and that's what I think this did.
It does. It does, and I agree with you that it is bringing the message of captivity of wild animals and wild animals being bred in America to the public, and I definitely agree it has a very widespread audience, but at the same time, I think I disagree where you're saying that the message of the documentary was to raise awareness about tigers and lions being held in America. I think the point of the documentary was look at these crazy people, and that's why it's trending right now on Netflix. Is more look at what these meth heads are doing, and it could be worse.
But
Taylor's message is how they got like the money to film it. Like, hey, we have this great idea. We're gonna film these people. We're gonna promote. Like, we're gonna send this message, and then it's just meth heads shooting guns and getting attacked by tigers,
killing people.
Yeah.
It just happened to be that they realized the story that was going to be more captivating was the people than it was going to be look at the condition these tigers live in. You know, so I think
for sure.
Change. But if you got to remember the ending, like the figures they showed you at the very end, all the last 2 episodes of what they told you about, like he euthanized 5 tigers right before he left, and he claimed they were sick, but not, who knows if that was true or not. But either way, the fact that one person owned over 200 tigers easily and nobody questioned that is
Florida.
the point. That's like a third of whatever's left in the wild. You know what I mean?
No, you're right.
Every time they brought up a statistic or brought up like any number, anytime they brought up a number, that was a number of tigers they had in the beginning to tigers they had now, to how many Carol Baskin has, to how many Jeff had, and then what the other guy that had the harem of women.
Doc Antle.
There you go. It's that's what they really wanted to drive home, because every time a number was mentioned, people had a huge reaction of, oh my goodness.
Well, you knew in the very beginning that they had these tigers and these other big cats, and it was more of a collection. It wasn't their goal to like save the tigers, because in like one of the very first scenes there was this I want to say it was a cloud leopard or something along that lines, because they went like, oh,
he was in the van. Yeah, that was
in the van they were, oh, it was a cloud leopard, and then they were like, oh, is this more rare than a snow leopard? And they're like, way more rare. So it's just like, okay, so
have it.
But we're owning. So
Right.
it's. I'm sorry to bring it up like this. I really want to dull this down, but this is the first thing in my brain that we're owning a living thing, and it's cool to have it. It's cool to have it. It means you have power, and
it's a collector's item to them.
Like, it's so normal, and the fact that because Joe Exotic has a big head about himself, so does everyone.
Oh yeah,
because they own a living thing that gives them money or makes them profit.
These animals are not domesticated. They are not meant to be your pet, but that's how they treat them, and then you lose an arm.
You don't know how strong
Or
they
your
are.
life.
It's basically a weapon. Is all I'm saying.
Good
Why are
point.
we allowed to own 500 of these horrible weapons? That also the thing with gun control is like you have your hand on the trigger. You don't have your hand on the trigger for a tiger. They go berserk when they go berserk.
No, you're right. So let's use that to transition to the game for today. Today's game is going to be a battle of Joe Exotic versus Dwight Schrute. Here's how this is going to work. I'm going to give you a category, and you're going to tell me who you would go to in this category. It could be advice. It could be you need help with something. We're just going to go down the line, and you're going to quickly, in 5 seconds or less, give me your answer. Make sense? Everybody good?
I have a feeling this is going to be very hard.
Yeah, me too. But I was saying,
All right, so Greenblatt is still out.
yeah.
So here's the order. Sean, you're going to go first, then Taylor, then Jess, then Matt. So
All
good?
right.
All right,
Sounds good.
here we go. So Sean, you need help fighting off a bear. Joe Exotic or Dwight Schrute?
Jeez, this really is a good game. So many good questions, and that's only the first one. I'm gonna go with I think I'll go with Dwight on this one, just because I feel like there's a lot of stuff we still don't know about him, even though they showed quite a bit on the show and how many years it was on? Yeah, I'm gonna go with Dwight on this one.
Taylor, someone planted the marijuanas on your property. Who do you call? Joe Exotic or Dwight Schrute?
Joe Exotic. He'll either smoke it all and get it out of there, or he'll know how to hide it.
Yes.
Probably in a tiger.
You need someone to babysit your child. Who do you call? Joe Exotic or Dwight Schrute?
Dwight. At least he doesn't have tigers running around to eat my
That's
baby.
That's a good point.
He's also
Matt.
has a child.
There you go. Matt, your son is having a birthday party. Do you have it at the GW Zoo or Schrute Farms? You're building a bomb shelter.
I'm gonna go with Dwight on this one. I just feel like he's prepared for the apocalypse. He's also can shoot a bazooka, I'm sure, so we need that.
Taylor, you're asking a boy on a date. Who do you go to for advice? Joe Exotic or Dwight Schrute?
Joe Exotic, obviously more romantic. He can land more than one husband.
Easy Schrute Farms.
Yeah. All right, Jess, you think your friend is having a problem with drugs. Who do you go to for advice?
I'm gonna have to go with Dwight on this one.
Yeah.
Because Joe Exotic would just say, it happens.
More blow.
Caring, caring.
Sharing is caring, exactly. So Dwight for me.
Matt, Sean, you have an extra ticket to the Super Bowl. Who's coming for the ride?
The third time in a row, I'm gonna say Dwight.
Taylor, you need help with trivia. Joe Exotic or Dwight Schrute?
Dwight Schrute. He's far more educated, that's all.
Jess, you're giving a best man speech, or in this case, bridesmaid speech. Who helps you write it? Maid of honor.
Joe.
There you go.
I think
Joe.
Sean, you need an extra player for your rec basketball team.
Dwight.
Taylor, Michael Jackson karaoke. Who's your backup?
Joe Exotic.
Jess, the Yakuza invaded your workspace and are putting your employees in danger. Who you call for help? I lost you. Damn it.
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna have to go with Joe Exotic for that one. He'll kill someone.
Okay. Matt, you there? Nope. Sean, where are we? Your phone rings. It's R. Kelly. He's trapped in the closet. Who do you send to rescue/apprehend him?
Joe Exotic, because I hope his tiger will actually kill him.
Okay. Taylor, you are trapped in a closet at an unknown location. You only get one call before you're stuck there forever. Who do you call to save you?
Dwight Schrute. I feel like he has good investigation skills to figure out where I am, get me out.
All right.
I trusted Dwight Schrute with my life right there.
Jess, who's your backup in the dance contest?
Joe Exotic.
Sean, you have to reenact scenes from Frozen for a group of 8-year-olds. Who's your co-lead?
Dwight.
Yeah, I would agree with that one.
Taylor, you're having a dinner party with your in-laws. Other attendees include Leslie Knope and Ben Wyatt, Jim and Pam Halpert, Chris Traeger and Ann Perkins, Barack and Michelle Obama, everyone on your partner's side of the family, Gary Busey, Flavor Flav, Ric Flair, and Orenthal James Simpson. Who mingles better? Joe Exotic and his husband, or Dwight Schrute and Angela Martin?
Joe Exotic and his husband only because they're more accepting. You know, Dwight would stir the pot, cause some trouble.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Jess, you're going camping. Who do you want to share a tent with?
Dwight. He would stay on the other side of the tent.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
He's just trusting people.
I don't want Joe to be like, hey, you want some drugs when I'm trying to sleep.
No, Joe Exotic is, yeah.
Dwight would probably just sleep on the grass outside of the tent, honestly.
Yeah. Gone.
Oh,
Bottom
you could pull a prank on Dwight. You could go shake the tent and he'd fall for it.
True.
Well, what's it called? What's that movie, Blair Witch Hunt on him?
Blair Witch Project.
Thanks.
John, Bottom of the ninth, 2 outs in Game 7 of the World Series. Bases loaded, tie game. Who's at the plate?
Oh, God.
What team is it? I'm just kidding.
Dwight.
Taylor, you're running for mayor. Who manages your campaign?
Joe Exotic knows how to, like, bring that flash. So, Joe Exotic.
Jess, you're running for mayor. Who's your head of security?
Joe Exotic.
All right.
I disagree with that one. But
No, because they would just look at him and just not. They'd be like,
Yeah, pretty
no.
much. Just walk out the door, turn right around.
They'd be like, ooh, she got Florida, man. We're staying away.
she got Florida, man. I still disagree.
Hey, that gives you Florida.
Just the moment
right.
alone.
2 more.
5.
Tom, the Goo Goo Dolls are on your property. Who do you get to send them away?
Heck, I'll go Joe Exotic this time.
There, that might be the first time you picked him.
No, I think I said I used them to sick him on R. Kelly.
Ah, yes, you did.
These tigers
Taylor,
will kill him.
final question. Both men are running for governor of your state. Who has your vote?
It's gonna be Dwight Schrute. As much as that's, like, intense, like, it has to be Dwight.
All right. So I want to talk about a possible trade rumor that we saw this last couple of days that has to do with the Cleveland Browns sending Odell Beckham Jr. to the Minnesota Vikings for what would probably be, if not a first-round pick, a combination of a second-round pick and a third-round pick, or a 2 and a 4. If Stephon Diggs got traded for a first, I think Odell's definitely worth what Stephon Diggs is, so I would want a first in return, especially considering, and Matt, you might be the expert on this, last year they sent him to the Giants, or they got him for the Giants, and they sent back a first and a third, right?
Yes.
So that's a terrible return on investment if you get him for 1 year at a first and a third and then send him out for a 2 and a 4 the next year. I personally think it would be a good move for Cleveland. I feel like watching Baker play with Odell last year, it felt like he was definitely forcing the ball. And I've watched Tom Brady play my entire life. So, first of all, when I talk about quarterbacks and when other people in this group that aren't Matt talk about quarterbacks, our spectrum is a lot higher because we think Tom Brady. But even Tom Brady forces the ball. And this past year, he forced the ball a lot because he didn't trust the receivers on the team. Baker Mayfield, it's not that he doesn't trust Odell. He does trust Odell. It's just he feels like he was required to get Odell the ball X amount of times per game. And when he does that, he's going to do it in bad situations, which is why I feel like the Browns in it of itself are safer with Jarvis Landry. They just picked up Austin Hooper to go next to David Njoku and probably have the best 2 tight end combination in football right now. Off the top of my head, I can't think of another one. I think it would be a good move for Cleveland. And at the same time, I think it would be a good move for Minnesota. Now, they did get rid of Stephon Diggs, as I already said. They traded him for a first-round pick to Buffalo. They also still have Adam Thielen. They have Kyle Rudolph. And they have arguably one of the best running backs in the league in Dalvin Cook. Regardless of how you feel about Kirk Cousins, this is still a very good Minnesota team. And what I think is missing one piece, and that could be Odell Beckham Jr. Now, realistically, I think the one piece that they're missing is having Kirk Cousins at quarterback and not someone better. But regardless, what do you guys think? Do you think it would be a good idea for Cleveland to get rid of Odell for Baker Mayfield's sake and just for the sake of the team? And do you think it would be a good idea for Minnesota to add one more receiver? Matt, why don't you start?
Yeah, I mean, so I personally think that, I think Cleveland needs to get rid of him. I think he's just causing too much controversy. I've always said this as, a Giants fan. He's not great to have on a team just because he has an ego, and that makes him kind of unlikable. But when you have an ego mixed with all these other egos on the field, it's not going to work.
No, exactly. And I think you could say that Odell's ego could be what's forcing Baker Mayfield to feel pressured into throwing him the ball. At the same time, while I definitely do agree with you that Odell does have an ego and probably has one of the bigger egos of all wide receivers. I don't think it's anything compared to the receivers that we saw in the 2000s with Terrell Owens, Chad Johnson, Steve Smith. I love Steve Smith, but Steve Smith, those kind of guys, I don't think it's in the same scale. And I think the problem is we're seeing Odell's ego more because, first of all, he's the only, arguably the best player on two very bad teams.
Yeah.
He was without question the best player on the Giants. Except for a couple years where they had some very good defensive backs. Janoris Jenkins made All-Pro once in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. And then he goes to Cleveland. And it's not just about being around bad players, but he's in a dysfunctional organization with bad coaching and bad people around him. And I think with anybody, if anybody's in a bad situation with bad people around them and bad management and bad leadership, if you feel that you're better than the people around you, it's going to show. And I think that's what has to do what's the reason why Odell Beckham gets so many headlines, because everybody's like, well, Odell Beckham should be doing so much better. Yes, but his quarterbacks were also Eli Manning with the noodle and Baker Mayfield in his second year with Freddie Kitchens. And I like Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield's going to be a great player. I don't think he's going to be anywhere close to what Trevor Lawrence is going to be and what Andrew Luck was, but I think he's going to be a great player. Sean, what are your thoughts?
Pretty much agree with just about everything you all said. I just think it's a clash of personalities out in Cleveland between Baker and Odell. And Odell's just, I'm not saying necessarily Baker's got an attitude or whatever, but I mean, Odell's definitely got one. Odell's definitely got one. I just don't think it just won't work out. I think it's a good move for the Vikings to do it because, I mean, you just lost Diggs, and why not replace him with Beckham, who arguably probably is a better, more talented wide receiver than him.
Oh, definitely. In terms of talent, Odell's a better player.
Yeah.
In terms of talent, Odell is probably a better player than everybody in football, minus AB if he's not doing bad things.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a more naturally gifted receiver. Maybe Julio. Maybe AJ Green when he's fully healthy. Even DeAndre Hopkins is more of a technician than a naturally gifted player. Michael Thomas is the best route runner in football that isn't just naturally given. Odell has such naturally given talent that it's a shame to see it wasted. Greenblatt, do you have any thoughts on this?
I just think it's like what you guys, pretty much everything what you've been saying. Didn't he also, didn't he also wear like $100,000 watch on like opening day?
He wore an Apple Watch on the field.
No, OBJ wore like a $100,000 watch like opening day.
Yeah, like a brand above Rolex. Like that's how expensive this watch was. I didn't even
know there was a brand above Rolex.
Yeah, this watch dwarfs Rolex.
The other thing was I specifically remember seeing him wearing an Apple Watch on the field and getting fined by Freddie Kitchens.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he did. It was a $2.2 million watch he wore during.
That's like Mayweather money.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that's the type of thing I'm talking about. You don't get away with that shit.
Also,
Philadelphia.
He turned that into a sponsorship deal, actually, with the watch brand.
Of course he does.
Well, yeah.
You don't see that shit with the Philadelphia Eagles. You don't see that shit with the New England Patriots. You don't see that with the Dallas Cowboys. Sometimes you see that with the Dallas Cowboys. But the point I'm trying to make is these well-run organizations, I think Odell will thrive in. And the problem is having Odell Beckham in Cleveland and New York is like having the soft parents who just let their kid do whatever the hell they want. And the problem is Odell Beckham hasn't had anybody who's looked at him and said, no, you can't do this. He had it once. It was Tom Coughlin for, I think, a couple years. And then Tom Coughlin lost all credibility because he stopped winning games, and that was it.
I would love to see Beckham in, really in Belichick's hands. Could you imagine with a strict coach like Belichick, the stardom that he would get?
The Pats have tried to trade for him multiple times.
Oh, they have a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't discount Mike Zimmer either. Mike Zimmer is very much a no-nonsense coach in Minnesota. Yeah. I think he'll thrive there.
There's going to be some pushback, but it'll work eventually.
Yeah. So that's going to wrap up this
You're
episode.
trading a diva for another diva. Like Stefan Stefan was a bit of a diva up in Minnesota. Especially
yes
on social
and no.
media.
I don't know.
Social
I wouldn't
media,
call him a diva. He just didn't like the system.
Yeah, I mean, not as much as like T.O. or something like that.
No,
really,
definitely.
No. But he was still very vocal.
That's going to wrap up this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Next week, we're going to have our draft special. And then on our next episode, we're going to be talking a ton of comic book stuff. You're watching a 202 show. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Saber. Thank you for watching.